Hey guys, welcome to Cover, where we bring literature and discussion together online. My name is Sam.
Vanessa.
Brian.
And today we're going to be talking about the second book in the trilogy that we started, and this one's called The Clockwork Prince. We are missing one of our people, May. She was our honored guest. Unfortunately, she couldn't make it. We're hoping that she can possibly make it for the third round, but I know that this series is near and dear to her, so we will try our best to honor her missing presence. As always, this is a spoiler alert. We talk about all the parts of the book, guys, so if you're concerned with that, if you haven't read it yet, or if you don't want to know, this is the point where you may want to stop watching, pick up the book, read it, and then tune in later on.
Or, this could be your Cliff Notes.
This could be your Cliff Notes. If you want help, we are your brigade to be able to do that. So,
your clave.
Yeah. So leaving off from the first one, I mean, the writing style is still very, very similar. Nothing has changed in that regard.
Very flowery.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the impact is very softened, I feel like. And now we're getting into the first one. I feel like was just introductory, so we got introduced to all the characters, and now that we know who they now have their own personalities and they're interacting and things like that.
Yeah.
So right off the bat, what do we notice? A love triangle.
Yeah, all the drama, really.
Yes.
I feel like I was in high school as I was reading this.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, there's these people that are feuding. Now this guy likes her, and then now this other guy likes
sneaking
her.
around.
But they don't know. And this one doesn't know, and that one doesn't know.
And then the girl dressed like going out to dress like a man.
Yeah.
Like,
She's
sneaking
out.
Nate.
To be fair, though, middle books always suffer from this. The middle of every series kind of, it's like it's what happens in the middle of every series is you get character buildup. It's, emotional this and emotional that, and you don't really get, the fun, grand cliffhanger that you're going to get at the end because it's the middle book.
Right.
So
I feel like with this trilogy, I feel like the author already knew what she was going to write, and she had to put in material and substance in the middle. I don't feel like she was typing or writing this literature and essentially coming up with the ideas as she was going along. It seemed very much like she had like a timeline of events, and then she was just inserting these things to happen. To kind of
well,
fill in
because
those
this
gaps.
one is what, only like a month, isn't it, or like 2 weeks or something like that?
It was 2 weeks from the time that Charlotte had
to
be able to retain the Institute.
Yeah.
So the time frame is very, very short.
Very tight.
It was very obvious within the book.
This much writing.
Yeah. It went. There was a lot that happened within that time frame. Now going back to the triangle, rather, not the trilogy, but the triangle. Are you guys team Jem or team Will?
Oh God, I don't know if I want to be team anything.
Yeah.
I hate teams.
You have to.
If I had to pick,
it's like Edward and Jacob. It's like
that's how I felt. I felt like I was
PETA
reading Twilight.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Whatever
man. Well, because in this book you learn a little bit more about Will and like why he's so troubled, and then when they go and find him in like the in that what is it, the opium den?
Oh God, the Infritz den.
Oh my God.
I was like, wow, really?
So you guys can't choose.
You sound like Team Will.
No.
You sound more interested in his character.
He would hang out with Will. That's why.
I would be partying, doing whatever. What is it called? The yin, whatever.
Yin Fang. Yin Fang.
Having a good time in this opium den.
I'm on Team Jem because I feel I relate more to him, and I'm always that guy.
You're the nice guy.
I'm the nice guy, but like the other one always gets chosen.
Yeah.
Over me, so I'm wondering at the end of the trilogy how it's going to like end up, because it's a toss-up. She's just really undecided.
Yeah.
The other thing, like in relation to that, I feel like there's so many other things going on that are really important. Like, how does anybody have time to even have these?
Yeah, all
these
this
love
drama.
triangles.
Me?
Yeah.
Because they. Okay, I'm gonna play a little bit of the May card. You can't have a good story without emotion and without some sort of like love conflict.
Yeah. And I agree.
I actually hate that about stories, but it is needed for most people.
I agree to an extent. It's just, I feel like in this series it's way overplayed. I feel like that. Obviously, I think that's kind of the center of the whole thing. I feel like is that emotional love triangle thing, and then there's all these other things happening, of course.
Yes.
But here's what I respect is that I felt like in the first book, Tessa was not in control. And that was my stance in the first book of the trilogy, was that she wasn't actually pushing the story. Things were happening to her and she was reacting. Yeah. Whereas now
Yeah.
She's actually making decisions. She's causing the story to move forward, and she's
Yeah.
causing other things to happen as she's making those decisions.
I'd like to say I'm Team Tessa because,
Okay.
like, the whole Jem, Will, that whole thing just is annoying. But I do like the character of Tess. I like that what she's growing into. I like that she's
Yes.
got her own, like,
Hey, buddy.
strength.
Yeah.
You know, she's not strong like a shadow hunter. You know, she's not out there, like, kicking butts. But
Right.
she is, you know, in her own way.
Yeah. I feel
Um,
like her ability is a metaphor or symbolic of her ability to adapt.
Mhm.
And I think
Yeah.
that's basically what her whole persona, her
Yeah.
whole character is, that she has the ability to shift into whatever gear
Yeah.
she needs to take on these challenges.
And I do also feel like Tessa redeems the love triangle, the really annoying love triangle,
Yeah.
because she's just a good character. Like, she's a strong character. I like her.
Mhm.
I like, you know, her inquisitiveness. I like that she, you know, won't just sit down and take what comes at her.
Right.
You know,
I will agree. I have much more respect for her in this book
Yes.
than I did previously. She's grown.
yes, she has.
Yeah.
But God, I hate stories with a really good, interesting kind of mystery to it, just getting so
Convoluted.
Yeah.
so, like, enmeshed in the love story. I
Yeah.
don't
Well,
love too much.
Was
At the
Will
same
too much of
time,
was
that.
Will justified in his behavior because of his?
I
the
wouldn't
revelation.
necessarily say that. He just, I mean, he's young, you know. I don't think he knew how to deal with it. As like he's just dealing with, you know, the whole situation where he thought he was cursed, and
Yeah.
the people around him that loved him would die. So he was just doing whatever he could to avoid that situation.
Right.
But I think that the book was a little too long, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think it could have definitely probably been like maybe half of what it really was. But I think it's kind of on the same line with the rest of the books because they're all like 500 plus pages.
Yeah.
You know, they're long books.
Yeah.
But I will say that at least the writer's good enough to where she definitely is really good at you know, imagery. She can paint.
Yeah.
She can paint a really good picture.
Yeah.
And I can at least appreciate that. I'm like, that makes
Yeah.
it a little bit more interesting, where it's instead of just being really dry and
Yeah.
and you know.
Well,
love
and if the
story.
love story part of it is too, like, flowery, the fight scenes are kind of in the same way added
Yeah.
because of her floweriness almost. She's very able to paint a picture.
Right.
Mhm.
And that's either in the love story part, or in, like, the fight scenes where you really feel like you're there.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
like it.
My theory, and I know we thought that we were starting with this trilogy, but this is
Yeah.
a prequel. My theory for why these books are so long and she puts in these details that aren't relevant or we think are irrelevant,
Yeah.
I feel like some of these are tones that are for connecting the other books in the series.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
there was a main series, and this was technically the prequel. And I think she
Yes.
has she's peppered the book with these
Yes.
details that people would only understand if they read the original series first.
Yes.
So
I can
Yes.
definitely see
so
that.
there was that. So
And that is something, again, to bring up May, that May has brought up to me, who is a huge fan of the entire series,
Mhm.
who read it kind of as you're supposed to. She read the original 6 books, the kind of the Mortal Instruments. That's the 6 books that are really what made the series famous.
the core, yeah.
Yeah, she read the prequel, and then she read the sequel, and then all of the side stories. And so she always tells me the details are what she loves.
Mhm.
She loves like seeing the families that are in the later books and the
Yes.
earlier books. She loves seeing the children of the characters now in the future series.
Right.
In fact, she almost gave me several spoilers because she almost couldn't hold it in.
Yeah.
But I don't like spoilers.
Yeah.
So
So
that's me.
I mean, aside from that, there's plenty of like revelations, right?
Mhm.
A lot of things
Yes.
took place that they didn't necessarily talk about originally, and that these things just kind of shifted.
Yes.
I think she has a pattern of that, the author.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what do you guys think? Did you guys anticipate that Lightwood was working with Mortmain?
Kind of along the lines. I felt like obviously there was some back motives with that.
Mhm.
The other thing I didn't expect was when Nate reveals to Tessa that they're
Oh my
not
gosh.
related.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like that they're cousins. They're not brother and sister, and that her mom and dad were like a demon and a shadow hunter.
Right. Which
Mhm.
again, these are just the very foundation of probably what's going to take place much later on.
But I mean,
well.
she already had a suspicion that was the situation.
Yes.
It was just confirmed, really.
Yes.
And then, of course, I think to me the other big one was that the Lightfoot one, and then of course like the whole will curse thing.
Yes, and that one too is very typical, it sounds like, of this author, where you get little hints of it. Will's he's an asshole. Through the whole first book, he's a complete asshole.
Yeah,
and then it's revealed, he's not really an asshole. He's pretending to be one.
I love her.
And he doesn't love that.
Well, next time you want to be an asshole, you just say that you have a curse.
Yeah, exactly, right? I'm cursed.
I'm cursed with being an asshole.
Yeah.
I have to be, or else you're gonna die.
Did you guys have any sympathy for Sophie, who was secretly in love with
I feel like
John?
that was just kind of like a secondary, tertiary
Yeah,
thing.
exactly.
Like they just added another love
layer.
story. Yeah,
Yes.
And
But I'm sure that's going to have something to play along with in the next book, especially since what was that? What's her love interest's name? Isn't that
Gideon.
Gideon. Since he left his house and went to the institute to live with them, so I'm sure that's going to have some sort of play.
Well,
in
yeah.
there.
Speaking of that, I mean, Will's sister, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like the last line of the book.
True to this style and this pattern.
Yeah.
There's one more.
Big reveal.
Yeah, big reveal.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about like him finding his house and seeing his family? And
Oh
stuff like
gosh,
that?
under the control of Mortmain.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I see how you feel about that.
Again, there are these several layers. I think that, and this is what happened in the first book as well. I'm not necessarily a fan of where we don't get an opportunity to guess what happened.
Yeah.
To where essentially we're given this sequence of events or this scenario, and then all of a sudden the answer is just given to us.
Yeah.
I think I like more of a build up, and I like the opportunity to pick up hints here and there to try and piece it together myself.
Yes.
And then once the reveal actually happens, I feel like this gratification of like, oh, well, I guessed it, or I was right, or if I was in this scenario, I would have figured it out before they did.
But I think at the same time, because she's trying to give you so much information in this book, it's like it didn't really lend itself to do that. And so she has to give you all this information because it's all this build up to this last book.
Yes.
Which I'm sure that it's going to have a lot of things going on as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we discussed, it doesn't necessarily have a lot going on as far as like a timeline because this is only like a short amount of 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But as far as like individually with the characters, you're seeing a lot of things going on.
Yes.
Right.
A lot of
build up.
a lot of emotional things going on.
And Charlotte and Henry are pregnant.
Oh yeah. They
were
a much bigger part of this whole experience.
Their kind of their love story. Actually, I felt a little bit more like I could tolerate that because
it was like the only adult thing in the book. That's why, because they have an adult relationship.
Exactly.
Where it's like they understand each other and they're kind of like they're both their emotional partners and they support each other and they help. And at the point where she's looking to resign, and he's encouraging her to like, no, don't do that. Like let's try to figure a solution out.
Yeah.
So I think that's why
that
you
might
could
be
relate to
why,
it. And I felt the same way. I was like, this is a little bit more relatable than like all the teenage drama.
It was more realistic.
Yeah,
for
it
sure.
is.
Where you have a couple in the middle of this conflict.
And that's why I think that I've gone back and even in the first review I was saying I don't necessarily love this adult fiction or like this type of story.
This YA stuff.
But I think that the author is actually a good author. I don't think she's a terrible author. I would love to read something a little bit more adult from her, and I feel like it would probably be really good.
Yeah.
And maybe in the future she'll release something.
Yeah. Well, she's she's great at character building. She's great at like scene building.
Oh yeah.
I love the whole section in the back of each of these books where she talks about the setting in England that she's taking. She traveled to England. She walked the streets. She wanted real places to feature in her books, and so that's what you get. You get a whole map in the front that she's drawn or someone's drawn for her, and then in the back a whole kind of description of these real places that she's put into her book, into her fantasy novel, and I really like that.
Yeah.
I think that's great storytelling.
I'm sure there's like a tour for this series.
Yeah,
out
I'm
there
sure.
in England.
I'm sure.
We should go.
We'll take May with us.
She would really like
Oh
that.
God.
That's where that battle took place. That's where they, all this stuff. Very cool. So, we knew that we would talk about the main points of the book. There was a lot of substance in there, but I think we were in agreement that a lot of it was just not entirely necessary or mandatory to include in the book.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So this might actually just wrap up, right? Those were kind of our,
Yeah.
our thoughts
really.
completely.
Yeah.
So overall, I did appreciate the book. I love, as she mentioned, the author's ability to create this world,
World
and I have a
building.
huge respect for the characters at this point and the growth that they each experienced.
Mhm.
And it is one of the books where you do have to read to the end. You know, we're gonna have to
Yeah.
read the third one.
Mhm.
It's not one of those to where you don't feel motivated or inspired to read the last one. I'm actually like eager to find out how this all like
what
wraps
happens
up.
to these characters, what the big point is in the end.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
what is it about Tessa that is so, you know,
Well, my theory about that, I think it's just because she's the
Important to
connection
Mortmain.
between the two worlds. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
Because she has the ability to she has that connection between both the
Mhm.
demons and the shadow hunters.
Yeah,
Mhm.
if you really examine the characters from a symbolic standpoint, you can
Mhm.
see what they represent, what their abilities and their strengths
Mhm.
are.
Mhm.
And so I'm going to give the book a thumbs up because of the author's ability to build that world and to
Mhm.
make me feel invested into what she's
Mhm.
writing. If we were doing 2 thumbs up, I'd only give it a 1 thumbs up simply
Yeah.
because it's just not necessarily my style of
Mhm.
reading, and there were so many things that I felt like could have been removed and it wouldn't have impacted the story as well.
Yes. And I give it, as far as middle books go, it fulfills all the needs.
Yeah.
But
She's on the tilt.
I'm on the tilt, but I don't like middle books. I didn't like the 5th book of Harry Potter. I didn't like the middle book of
Blasphemy.
The Hunger Games. I mean, that's
What about
just
Lord of the
it's-
Rings? And don't tell me they were just walking. Don't tell me they were just walking.
What about you, Brian? What do you think?
I'm gonna probably go with Vanessa and just kind of be like,
tilt.
like I appreciate the writing. I appreciate the detail.
Yeah.
It's not really my style. I wouldn't have necessarily picked this up on my own.
Yeah.
And there's too much. I guess like I don't know. It's too like teenagery for me. You
Yeah.
know. So it's a young adult book.
I'm going to
so.
speak for May and give it 2 thumbs up, even though she's
Possibly a third.
Yeah. As many thumbs as she can find.
Yes.
Big toe.
Everything. Any final thoughts, guys, before we wrap up?
I'm interested in the last book.
Yeah,
We'll
me
see.
too.
We'll see where this
What's going on.
goes.
I think this was definitely the middle one, so we don't have a whole lot to discuss. I think once we finish the 3rd book, we can really examine the trilogy as a
Yes.
whole,
Yeah.
and we can kind of piece everything together and give you
Mhm.
guys a final consensus. But thank you so
Mhm.
much for tuning in. That's it for this part of the trilogy. Stay tuned because next time we're going to wrap it up. We're going to talk about the 3rd book. We're going to talk about our final thoughts. Hopefully we'll have May back so that she can kind of have her input and maybe give us some hints as to what's to come if we decide to read more after this trilogy. So we'll find out.
A lot
But
of
yeah,
pages.
thanks again for tuning in.
Thank you.